right, so you're going with James to win this thing, Monty.
Yeah, this was the closest matchup, I think, in the top 8, but I'm going to go with James. I think we may get one Overlords player making it out of the quarterfinals, in addition to Matt Nass, who already got the job done.
All right, what about you, Riley?
Well, I'll take the opposite opinion once again. I think Kenta has the experience. I think this deck, that the Jeskai Oculus deck has just got what it takes, I think, to beat any and all comers, and so I reckon the Japanese fella's going to get up and about here.
Where's your gloating, Riley? You won last round.
I did win last time. Look, thank you very much, Maria. Let's get into this. I did indeed predict that Matt Nass was going to win, and win he did. And so what I'm going to do, make sure I get the production team to very cleverly clip that to make me say, oh no, I think it's going to, I'm very confident about it, and leave out all the stuff about how I was saying how I was going to self-aggrandise myself. As indeed, they'll cut this part of me talking right now.
Just always the contrarian, never respecting the numbers.
I have made a career based on this approach, Marnie, and I've done very, very well for myself over the years, mate, so I'm not about to change pace now.
Excellent. Well, I think Kenta is going to win.
All right, I'm done.
Okay.
You see what I did there?
I finished there. Okay.
I'm going to pass it on over to the booth with Alien Corey here for a second quarterfinal.
Maria. Maria. Thank you very much for that eye-opening throw. I will say that
I'm
much.
out of here.
Yeah,
I'm out of here.
I know. There's only so many puns that we can handle here. Being parents ourselves, it's just, the mom and dad jokes are too strong, that side of things. Ailey Loney alongside Corey Baumeister.
Hey.
We're bringing you the action from the second, third, and fourth quarterfinals here.
Yep.
It's Top 8 Sunday. If you've just joined us, 7 players now remain after Matt Nass picking up that victory. So let's see if another Domain Overlord can join our Overlord, who is already into the semis there, Corey.
I, for one, welcome our new Domain Overlords here into the meta. Yeah, this match is, you know, the last round, Matt was definitely not the favorite coming in against Mono Red. On the other hand here, Domain is very much favored against this Jeskai Oculus deck. Went about 17 and 12 in the Pro Tour in favor of Domain, so about a 60% win rate in favor of Domain. These two, on the other hand, did not play.
Yeah,
you know,
didn't play each other.
Didn't play each other, exactly. Jeskai Oculus, Kenta didn't play against any Domain, and James didn't play against any Jeskai Oculus throughout the tournament, though. So, new territory for them.
Absolutely. Kicking things off here with one of our Surveil lands. Land sticks on top there for James Dimitrov.
And looks like James has the ideal start of having a green Surveil land into Up the Beanstalk on 2.
Nice.
And then you kind of just figure everything out there. Looks like we have Biza, Day of Judgment, Zur, and looked like an Overlord as well. So a solid hand there, and with Kenta taking a mulligan to start, but being on the play, big advantage.
Inti, Seneschal of the Sun hits the board here for Kenta. I've been a big fan of this card ever since it's been printed, and it just does so much good work for this Oculus strategy. On the other side of things, Up the Beanstalk. Fancy, signed one there. I see you, James. Going to be getting some card advantage there for James as this game goes along. Inti gets an eyeball into the graveyard, gets a counter.
Oh my!
And a wombo combo.
That is what we call doing it right there. That is exactly what this deck wants to be doing, is discarding Oculus and then using the Inti ability to get the helping hand. I mean, that was just poetry in motion.
That was awesome. Oh boy, trigger, upkeep. Let's see if we can get something. Oh, that's another eyeball.
That is another Oculus, so that's also fear of missing out. So here's going to be something that James is going to be able to pick up on here, is there's going to be a creature going to the graveyard. So James is going to know, well, you got something spicy underneath there.
Yeah. And it's just a process of elimination. All right, what's better than that fear of missing out?
Yeah,
right now?
the other, mild factor is having a fear of missing out in the graveyard counts as too tight, so maybe Kenta's trying to push Delirium, but yeah, you're right. It's probably like, okay, there's another eye under there.
Yeah, definitely something spicy there for Kenta that James is going to have to deal with. The turn passes back here. Kenta untaps with 3 attackers now, and this is kind of where the Oculus deck absolutely runs away with things. Look at the amount of power on the board here. James has to have the answers for one of these creatures, if not more, if he's able to.
Yeah, and we did see from James land, Day of Judgment is going to be gigantic here, so maybe Kenta can find a way to push through enough damage. Or, if anything, Kenta is just going to be like, okay, I don't want to push any more pressure on the battlefield because, well, I mean, this is already a ton of pressure. So Kenta will just hold any threats for the rebuild process.
Eyeballs aplenty, as well as an Inti. And now even more manifest dread happening, and things looking pretty dreadful indeed here for James Dimitrov in this first game.
Yeah, all that being said, 1 day of judgment here to be able to clean up all the creatures. Yeah. After that, Kenta's deck doesn't really, come from behind extremely well in any meaningful way, aka you're not giving a lot of creatures haste. There are 2 bitter reunions to be able to pair that with. And that would actually be lethal if there is one of them, because I believe we did see a recommission in hand. So that's what Kenta's going to be looking for. Otherwise, if Kenta's just rebuilding, playing a couple creatures here, James's deck from this point on is very good at dealing with creatures. We saw a Biza in there to be able to gain some life. So I actually think James is favored if Kenta can't put a hasty eye into play here.
Yeah, so Kenta slowed down dramatically there with Day of Judgment. James looking to stabilize, and if Kenta doesn't have the win right here and now, got to think that he could do just that. So,
yeah, and I think I saw Oculus and a recommission, so just deciding which avenue you want to get into play, but more than likely, a Oculus is coming in this turn. It's just which way does Kenta want to go for it.
Spyglass Siren, Map Token, Explore, Helping Hand on top of the library, so we'll stay there.
So Kenta's planned this game. I didn't see any bitter reunion, anything like that, so it just looks like a bring an Oculus back over and over and over again and hope it's enough.
Having a big think here before passing the turn. Does he want to fire it off right now?
Yeah, we're definitely going to recommission. It's just, do we keep this helping hand out on top? And it's just basically, Kenta's not thinking about what he's going to do this turn anymore. It's trying to map out next turn.
Yeah. There's the recommission.
Ooh.
Nice, okay. Fear of Missing Out comes back, gets a counter of its own.
Okay.
And the card drawn off the top, so Helping Hand to give Kenta a hand if these creatures are dealt with now as well.
And we have Sorcery, Land, Enchantment. Yeah, we have Delirium, so all good to go on that. And now Domain starts to just really look like the extremely powerful deck that it is. Just kill everything. Everything comes with a replacement.
Leyline Binding twice now. Kenta's in quite a bad way. Things flipped very much there after that Day of Judgment took care of the entire battlefield.
Now still has the Biza to be able to come back as well. I would assume James has a lot of extra removal. Otherwise, the Leyline Binding on the Spyglass Siren.
Another Leyline in hand.
Yeah,
well.
okay.
3. Good grief.
That makes sense then. Otherwise, you don't want, it's not the biggest threat right now, for sure.
And each of those Leylines came with an extra card too, so yeah. At this point, Kenta's like, could I just have a Burst Lightning to the face, please?
Yeah, no kidding. James next turn will have the ability to go Biza plus have a Leyline available, it looks like. So, I mean, Kenta has to have a very fantastic turn here.
Yeah, too many things need to go right for Kenta at this point.
Exactly. And that's just the kind of the problem with this matchup in general. You can put a lot of creatures on the battlefield, but none of them have haste like the Gruul deck. So that kind of differentiates this pseudo-aggressive deck up against Domain versus like an aggressive deck like Gruul that can pressure and have a lot of haste.
It's a double manifestation here. Torch the tower into the bin.
So if we have another Wrath here, another Sunfall or Day, we're probably all done. But this is Kenta saying, if you have it, you have it.
Ba-boom.
That's probably a Wrath.
Another board wipe there. So James doing an excellent job of keeping this battlefield under control. I do believe that was a Day of Judgment.
Yeah, 4 mana was tapped, so I'm sure there. No Incubate.
Steam Core Scholar, all right. Hi, bud. You bringing anything good with you? No, 3 lands. Okay.
Yeah, Kenta's deck looks really good at refueling that one time, maybe refueling the second time, but
2 board wipes, you're not going to fight through that.
Exactly.
Now all James needs is a Zur, and he can just go, whee! he starts smacking with massive 6/6s.
Yeah, and I would think this matchup...
Oh, hey, speak of the devil.
all done here. And I would think this matchup
Wow.
especially is going to greatly favor James. You know, we saw the 60% during the tournament in this matchup in favor of Domain. That was best 2 out of 3s. Now best 3 out of 5s. Post-board games, when Kenta can bring in like negates and stuff like that, that gets a little better. But, you know, Kenta has to win this game, I feel. Otherwise, it's pretty much all done. And this would be another game that I think James is very favored.
Yeah. So Kenta on the play. Both players kept their opening hands. And to kick things off here, fear of missing out for Kenta. And pretty sure he doesn't want to miss out on the semifinals, so has to get the job done in this matchup like you mentioned, Corey.
Yep, absolutely.
But Beanstalk is here again. And Beanstalk, turns out, it's a pretty good magic card.
Pretty good magic card for sure. I mean, just basically got to be the card of the tournament so far. You know, we have at least, what, 16 copies of in the top 8?
Top 8, for sure.
0 this town ain't big enough.
Oh,
I
no,
think
there's
that's,
more. There's more because, wait. No, that with the Golgari deck as well.
Yeah, so just the 4 decks playing 4 of, I imagine, right? Yeah.
That's how math works.
Yeah. And 0 copies of this town ain't big enough. So really shows that, you know, the pros came to adjust to the meta, and they found ways to beat the most popular deck. So I think that's a big plus in Standard's healthy metagame right now. If you want to beat a deck, there are tools right now. It's such a deep card pool.
There's 3,540-something cards legal in Standard. So
yes.
If you don't, I mean, hey, if you don't like any of these decks, just, you know, do what Zevin and his team did and be like, okay, cool, well, we're just going to play this one.
Exactly.
Worked out pretty well for them.
Yeah, Seven's deck is really cool. Excited to see that a little later on. And look at this start, though. Oh, my. Just pretty much, once again, the ideal draw from Kenta, and we'll see if it's enough. I mean, I think I see another day. Oh, is that a split up? So right now, James can literally split up these creatures here. And I mean, that's good enough. That's just a solid 2-for-1 dealing with 2 very problematic creatures.
Yeah, dealing with the one that brings the other creatures along for the party. So
Yeah.
Great news there for James. Finds the board wipes when needed, and there's another Day of Judgment in hand too. So Kenta's got a lot to fight through here.
Looks like a Sunfall as well. And that just seems like, you know, most of the time when you play against these blue-based tempo-style decks, sweepers are just okay. But the way that Kenta's deck is built, sweepers are unbelievably good.
Yeah.
There's no counterplay to him game 1. There's a bunch of dead cards in Kenta's list. Kenta does have 2 Spell Pierces, but they haven't found their way to his hand at all. And they've just all looked phenomenal.
This is going to be board wipe tribal this game, I feel. Down to 14 goes James. Not too worried about the life totals just yet. Kenta recommissions an eyeball. It'll get a counter. And hopefully a couple friends that'll stick around this time. But
sorry to interrupt you there, Ailey. There is the Spell Pierce here. So Kenta truly has a great plan here. If James just goes for a tap-out Day of Judgment, we could be all done because that's land, sorcery, creature enchantment, domain's there. So the Oculus can attack twice. That's 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 damage.
Jeez.
If James goes for this Wrath, Kenta's going to win this game. Woo!
Yeah. Sweet. Yes, and like you mentioned, with Delirium available, we're going to get multiple combats here, at least for one of the biggest creatures. So things turn sideways, untap, and whack them again. So tying things up here. Game piece.
All right.
Sweet.
Yeah. Kenta needed that. Now I think the matchup really gets a lot more even. So, so now we got ourselves a quarterfinals here.
Timely Spell Pierce. Coming in clutch there for Kenta Harane. So let's get to game number 3 here. This is best 3 out of 5, just as a reminder. So the players have now sideboarded. Corey, what is the game plan here post-sideboard?
Yeah, I definitely think Kenta wants to be bringing in some counter spells. I think bringing in negates, that's going to be the first thing we're going to see. Outside of that, there are some Chandra Spark Hunters, which we saw Kenta make great use of against the Esper Pixie player for his Winnanen. Yesterday, I imagine that Planeswalker is totally fine here as well. Those would be my big changes. Basically, you just really want to get out Torch the Tower out of your deck.
Yeah.
And there's one into the Flood Maw as well, so you probably take that out. Take 5 removal spells out, bring in 3 Planeswalkers, and some counter spells. A recipe as old as time. Okay, there is the ideal start for James. James finally had the ability to have a proactive draw. You know, being on the draw those last 2 games, everything was defensive. But whenever you can do this, you know, Beanstalk into the green Overlord, get a mana advantage, get a card advantage. This is when your deck is really firing on all cylinders.
In for 3, down to 16. Beanstalk and an impending Overlord. Helping Hand brings back the Oculus. And Kenta's just pedal to the metal here.
I keep saying, I'm like, wow, Kenta's draw once again was just perfect, but maybe this Jeskai deck is just that consistent. We didn't see a lot of it on coverage, you know, for how many players and how many phenomenal players played it. You know, the whole CFB team, as well as a lot of people on Kenta's team played it.
It just kind of quietly snuck its way into, you know, the feature match area and into the top 8s, you know, similar to how Ian Rob just, you know, mono red out of nowhere.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. But man, Kenta's draws, all 3 games have been amazing. It's just James very easily dealt with one of the draws, and without that Spell Pierce, James still would have dealt with the other kind of nut draw from Kenta as well.
Yeah. Meticulous Archive, Surveil. Looks like James likes what he sees on top.
Now James really needs, I feel, a Leyline Binding. There is one there.
Yeah.
I also think Kenta had a negate here, so this might be just locked up once again, depending on when we attack. I think James should very much wait till after attacks, because you don't want to allow an instant to get into the graveyard to boost that Delirium for fear of missing out. So I think that would be the correct thing to do. And if Kenta wants to try to get Delirium, cracking maps, doing that kind of stuff, then Kenta won't have the mana available for a counter spell. So yeah, I think Kenta's forced into this one combat here.
Leyline Binding, trigger, draw a card. Target likely going to be the Oculus.
If it resolves, I think this is a tough choice, because Kenta, you know, if you counter this, then your opponent untaps and Day of Judgment, you feel sad, but this is also most of your pressure. So it is a tough choice here. You have Chandra on the back. I think you counter this, and then you have Chandra to recover from the sweeper next turn. Ideally, Kenta would just have 2 counter spells here and it'd be easy mode, but
that isn't always the case.
Yeah, because if you don't negate this, you're down to just 5, you know,
power.
5 power here for pressure, and I don't think that's enough against James' impending Overlords.
Especially if Zur shows up, so it's
Kenta
allowed to resolve. There goes the eyeball.
Now, the one thing that Kenta does have going here is if you sack this map and put, let's say, a creature into the yard or something like that, and then you negate the sweeper, you know, your manifest could be a 3/3, gets to attack twice. That's 6, 7, 8, 9 damage all of a sudden. So then you're really putting a lot of pressure on, but you got to get to Domain, or you got to get to Delirium, excuse me.
All these keywords. Turn passes back now, 2 mana up. Counterspell in hand for Kenta Harane. Another up the beanstalk. More cards for James.
Kenta's cool with that. And now here's the Day of Judgment going straight to the yard, I imagine. Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Going for the clog the battlefield approach, I see.
Draws a couple cards, able to get a couple blockers here, and
yeah, that's not too bad.
Yeah, nothing else though.
You don't announcement trigger, and you didn't know your number, so it was missed.
Oh, we missed a trigger.
So the opponent decided to put on stack or not.
Looks like those triggers were put on after they were supposed to, essentially. So those are the impending triggers you can miss.
Yeah.
Okay. Very minor, you know, most of the time.
It
The
doesn't,
games,
you don't
the
mind.
games James are going to win is animating them with Zur,
Yeah.
or just enough sweepers where Kenta has no pressure and James can flip over cards out of his hand at random to win. But looks like we got it figured out. But
gets it this time round.
Always good to have the judges help us out at all times.
Yeah,
Thank you,
maintain
judges.
The correct board state.
Exactly.
Turn passes back here to Kenta.
I always love that, you know, if you see the judges come in, make sure something's right instead of letting it go and just assuming things are right. So, good job, judges.
Kick things off here with cracking a map, perhaps? Or did we find a one-drop? It's another siren, maybe?
Looked like a helping hand here. So, yeah, we're going to start by cracking the map.
Yeah, helping hand. Target the manifest.
Okay.
Spell pierce.
That is kind of missed its prime.
Yeah, at this point, you know, everything's going to be a little cheaper.
Yep.
A lot cheaper with Domain now.
And some sideboarding from Kenta. Kenta did what I was thinking there, bring in the Chandra, bring in the negates, also brought in Destroy Evils, which makes a lot of sense to have some counterplay to Zur and some ability to, you know, destroy Leyline bindings. Did take out the torches, the 2 bounce spells, and a couple recommissions. Then on the other side from James, brought in Rest in Peace, you know, great card here. Pest Control and Terrace Under for some of the less than ideal cards.
Off to combat we go. No delirium, so no extra combats from these fears of missing out. But there are 3 blockers available here for these creatures.
So taking 6 down to 5.
Oh, excuse me. The other Overlord of the Mistmoors is hanging out with his friends as well.
Yep, yep. And this seems like a scenario. I think Kenta has land, helping hand, Chandra, negate in hand. So, you know, you just see on the other side, Zur just like, I believe it is my time to show up. And Zur would just completely close the game out here.
Yeah.
And the thing is, there's not many things that like prevent Zur from taking over. It is those Destroy Evils that turn off the lifelink, but you can't kill the creatures that are attacking. So if Kenta doesn't leave up white mana, then James knows it's Zur time. and there's no white mana, so if Zur's there, James is almost assuredly going to win this game immediately.
Let's see, does he slam it?
Didn't take any out, so there's still the full 4 in the deck.
Oh yeah, why would you take any out?
That's a bad sign.
Yeah, that is a bad sign. And here he comes. Zur, Eternal Schemer, hits the board with 5 mana available, so 2 activations represented. It's going to be the Overlord of the Mistmoors that brings 2 extra buds along with him. That's a lot of damage and a lot of life gain.
So look like James didn't want to go for the full amount. You know, there still could have been, you know, James doesn't know that all the bounce spells and all the torches were taken out. So there still could have been plenty that could have been played. But we know together that Destroy Evil is really the only way to interact here.
He's got a spare in hand.
Yeah, got a spare to go. But I mean, even just gaining the 7 here, getting a couple more blockers, should just about be enough anyways.
That's way too much to overcome. You know, no sweepers in Kenta's list as far as I am aware.
Yeah, and I want to go back to that key turn of that Leyline binding on the Oculus with that negate just, you know, dying in Kenta's hand there. I'm curious if the game would have looked different if the negate fired it off there, because we don't know if there was a Day of Judgment, if James would have played differently, if that would have happened, but that seemed like the turning point of that game for sure. But James on a mull to 5 here, so this should be in favor of Kenta, especially being on the play.
And just to check, there are 2 Pyroclasms in the sideboard for Kenta, but I don't believe he would have brought them in.
I highly doubt that. I highly doubt that.
Yeah, there's creatures to kill, but most of the time,
yeah,
they don't show up. So
Kenta doing, you know, the just absolute right of this Jeskai Oculus deck. You start on turn 2 with the Oculus in the graveyard, and you play anything on 2 to put it there. Now let's see if Kenta, for a 4th game in a row, has an Oculus hitting the battlefield.
It's been very consistent.
It has, but he's still down 2-1.
He is. This is a tough matchup. You know, having a look at the data from the weekend.
Yep.
You know, the Domain Overlords deck is pretty heavily favored. So
Yeah.
crafts eidetic memory, draws a card. Fear of missing out gets the counter from the memory, and in for 3.
Interesting. I want to say those are all blue cards. Must not be a spell pierce, otherwise tapping mana like that wouldn't have made the most sense, but...
Destroy evil, drawn off the top.
Okay.
Steam Core Scholar. Oh, yeah, we finally get to see.
That was a very well-played game by
Wombo
Kenta. And hey, this, when you play a best of 5 and you're playing a 5-color domain deck,
Yeah, and you're not hitting your
where you
lands.
need all this mana, we need Frank to run the numbers here, but there's got to be at least one of those games where you stumble and you have a fail rate,
Yeah.
When you play a greedy mana base like that, it's not free.
Man, I wanted to see the Steam Core Scholar get counters on it, but
Yeah.
anyway.
All right, a huge game 5 here.
Oof.
Nothing like a game 5 in the morning to start the Pro Tour.
Yeah, right? Surveilling with shadowy backstreets. That's a ride's end into the yard. Both players kept their opening hand. Spire Bluff Canal to kick things off here for Kenta. And the turn passes back to James, who gets Analyze the Pollen to go and find some land.
Yeah, but no Beanstalk this time around for James. That's what you really wanted. Maybe Kenta had the Spell Pierce anyways, but not starting with that. Your deck looks a lot more fair,
Yeah.
to say the least.
I was about to say, that's the first time he's missed on turn, well, not missed in inverted commas.
Yeah.
He may have chosen not to play it, but
Yeah, besides last game where it was kind of a non-game, but
yeah.
Otherwise both
Yeah.
players have kind of fired on all cylinders, but
Got a split up there. He's got a Day of Judgment. There's an Overlord. And
looks like a Leyline Binding there in the middle
yeah.
as well,
That's
plus a
a
couple
Leyline.
lands. So all ways to interact, still pretty solid. We'll see how James tries to get max value out of these sweepers. So I wouldn't be too shocked to see, just this Overlord and try to get more value from a Day of Judgment. Or a split up if multiple creatures are tapped or something
Yeah.
like that. But
also ramping nicely, so James will have multiple options to do many things a turn. And there again, Inti getting a counter, chucking an eyeball into the bin, and exiling Destroy Evil.
So probably not going to cast that unless there's for sure no counterspell, which it doesn't look like there is. So it's for sure going to be this helping hand on the Oculus, and you might just destroy Evil the Overlord. You feel kind of bad about that. But yeah, and that's just the open sign that James should very much be thinking, okay, you do not have a counterspell in your hand at all.
Yeah.
And if you counter anything this game, it's going to be off the top these next few turns.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a juicy Day of Judgment.
And cue up the violins.
Yeah.
No reason really to go for the split up here over the Day of Judgment.
It's not the worst if you want it. Like, if you had to up the Beanstalk, maybe split up on tapped creatures and beans
Sure,
would
yeah.
be fine. But instead, might as well just get that Manifest. You don't want the train wreck scenario of there being another eye under there.
Yeah. Because that would get Kenta back into the game
Exactly.
a lot quicker.
And now has that Leyline Binding available. So really, this is James's game to lose.
Yeah.
And Kenta's hand looks
This is not
very, very flooded.
Lots
I
of
see-
lands.
Is that Fear of missing out on 5 lands?
No, it's a bit of reunion.
Okay. Oh, well, still, Bitter Reunion and 4 lands here. It's terrible, so need to find something here. Okay, that was great.
What do we find?
Inti and Chandra.
Okay, nice.
That was great. Inti for this turn to present a little pressure. And then Chandra, next turn, it's not as good as we saw against like the Pixie decks yesterday, as there's basically no way to remove a Planeswalker from that deck, but
Yeah.
James has the ability to Leyline Binding it now, and can do it even before combat, so it doesn't automatically crew that vehicle, so it's
Yeah.
not the biggest deal in this matchup.
Yeah, certainly not the most powerful Chandra we've seen, but quite useful in this list.
Oh yeah. Looking at you, Torch of Defiance.
Alrighty, so Kenta gets some permanents back on the battlefield here. Inti and Bitter Reunion, which can be a haste provider if needs be. But James is still sitting at 17, so there's not going to be any, like, bam, out of nowhere, you're dead.
Yeah.
unfortunately for Inti, number 3, that is the case.
No surprises, that's for sure. Okay.
Spell Pierce, okay.
All right, doesn't work out as well here. If only James only had 2 mana available, the Chandra Spell Pierce combo could actually get some work done.
Activate, activate, yep.
So we can 0, and James can respond here to deal with the Chandra
Yeah.
through Spell Pierce, and then untap and Windmill Slam an Overlord of the Mistmore. Oh boy.
Not a bad follow-up after
Yeah.
dealing with your opponent's biggest threat, huh?
And Kenta only has land Spell Pierce, so if Kenta doesn't draw Destroy Evil to just stay in this game, I mean, I can't see a world where Kenta can win this.
Trigger on the stack, Leyline Binding takes care of Chandra.
Avatar.
Avatar named, all right,
Yeah.
so no Zur in hand, but we do see the big ol' Overlord of the Mistmores hit the board here, bringing along his 2 little buggy friends.
Yeah, there's no counter spell that can get that, but it's just a safe security blanket there. Be like, you are not countering this with your 1 blue, no
Yeah.
matter what.
And paid full price for it as well, so that is a big, big chunk of damage coming in
Another
next turn.
land, we're all done here.
Yeah, no. Looks like our domain overlords are going to keep overlording.
I welcome them.
I do. And that's going to be 2 domain
Yeah.
through to our semifinals.
You know, with all this spice that we saw, all these cool decks,
Yeah.
Azorius Control, Azorius Omniscience, Jeskai Oculus, all this stuff, having one of the big 3 be the breakout deck, I think is something cool that we don't see all the time. So, yeah, really cool stuff. I don't think a lot of people would have thought Domain would have had this much success so far.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't want to say it's all just because of the ride's end, you know, that we saw an uptick in popularity perhaps, or just the amount of submitted lists, but yeah, I don't think it's ever been not strong. It's always been consistent, you know?
No, I think it's a bit of a product of how people built their Gruul decks.
Yeah.
You know, everyone tried to be more mid-rangey to have an arms race advantage in the mirror and to be better against the Esper Pixie decks. Like, everyone was fearing these Esper Pixie and other Bounce House decks that every deck kind of went more mid-rangey to combat that. And Domain is just like, yes, keep putting 2-mana enchantments that don't do anything against me into play.
And then whee, over the top we go with a bunch of life-linking enchantments.
Yeah, it was just a perfect storm for Domain to improve
Kenta's
over the weekend.
fighting the good fight here, gets an Oculus down as well as a Manifest Creature, but just look how much power is on that side of the board.
Yeah, when that Overlord hit, this game was very over, and we're just kind of going through the motions.
Yeah.
It's a Sunday, but hey, Zur, let's add that to the party.
Oh, goody. That is gonna do it. So James Dimitrov on Domain succeeds there in our quarterfinals and makes his way into the semis. Big congratulations. Yeah, I feel it for you, man. Congrats. That is so cool to see. I bet he's over the moon.
Oh, I bet. I mean, that feeling has to just be unbelievable. Going to Game 5, the nerves that you have, even being on the play, even in a good matchup, to just know that you are moving on to the top 4, and no matter what, are going to have a phenomenal finish here at this Pro Tour. It's got to be a phenomenal
I wonder if that was Mom.
Yeah,
I want to go meet Mom.
Yeah, okay, yeah, not sure.
Oh, congratulations again to James. We did get to chat with him after his win, so let's head on over to Riley, who's with him.
I'm in with James Dimitrov after a grueling 5-game win in the quarterfinal. Congratulations, James. How are we feeling after picking up the dub?
Yeah, thank you so much. I feel incredible. That was rough, long, stressful, but yeah, I feel really good now.
Well, I want to ask you, because obviously it was a very long contest playing across all 5 games, what went right for you? What were some of the things that meant that you were able to take out this match?
Yeah, so being on the play versus draw seems very big in this matchup because you're able to hold up counter magic. They are. So if you're on the play, it's harder for them to play a threat and hold up counter magic. So I was able to get under that and kind of control their board on the play. So game 1, I stole on the draw. That made me feel really good and going to the next 4.
It set you up really well to win the other games, right? Okay, well, now looking forward towards the semi-final. This is your first Pro Tour. I want to know how you're feeling, your confidence. Are you feeling like there's a lot of pressure? What's going through your mind? What's going through your heart right now?
I'm feeling great. I mean, after my run yesterday, I just feel so confident. So just really feel like I can beat anyone right now and just seeing who's next and excited.
It's a great attitude to have. I feel like I could beat anyone. James, congratulations, mate. Best of luck in the semis.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
2 quarterfinals decided, 2 to go. Who will join Matt Nass and James Dimitrov? Stay tuned to find out.